Dear friends, welcome to the second session on separation techniques part 2. So in this session we will be discussing about chromatography technique. So in the first session we had an idea about centrifugation, how the centrifugation is playing a key role in the separation of our subcellular components. So in this session we will be discussing about chromatography and its applications and its types. Chromatography, the name itself indicates chromo means color, graphy means to write. So here we are going to see the result in the form of colored pattern, chromatograms. That's why we call this technique as chromatography. So if you see in this slide, the scientist who developed this technique is Michael Tuat. In the year 1906, he developed a technique that is chromatography for the first time, and he is a Russian botanist. He used this technique to separate plant pigments like chlorophyll and carotenoids. And since we are observing the result in the colored patterns, he named it as chromatography. And the major components of this technique are two. One is stationary phase, the other one is mobile phase. So as its name itself indicates, stationary means it is stable and the mobile one is it is movable. Okay, so in this technique, the material which we will be using like paper and the silica and other materials. And the mobile phase is like gas, liquid, depending on the purpose and depending on the technique, this will be varying. Okay. And the major principle behind this chromatography technique is partition and adsorption. So partition is nothing but the separation, and adsorption means the substances will get adsorbed on the what is called as solid phase. So if you see here, the separation depends on the rate at which the components of a mixture tend to move through supporting medium. This formula will tell you how this separation is working here. So the concentration of the substance that is in stationary phase, that is X, and the concentration of substance in the mobile phase, that is Y, which will give a distribution coefficients. That means the substance which we are going to separate and the analyte, the molecule which we are going to separate in this technique, will be distributing in between the mobile phase and as well as the stationary phase. That will give you a value of distribution coefficient. So based on this distribution coefficient, we will going to separate further. And moreover, the other principle, that is adsorption. So adsorption is nothing but increase in the concentration of surface area. So when you are going to use a principle of adsorption to perform chromatography, what will happen? The substance which we are going to separate will get accumulated on the surface of the substance. For example, just imagine if you dip a chalk into the ink, what will happen? The outer layer of the chalk will get adsorbed. More ink will adsorb on the outer layer. The moment you break and see the chalk, you can see the white portion which is not coated with the ink, the outer layers are being coated with the ink. This is nothing but adsorption, increasing the concentration in the surface area. So there are various types of chromatographic techniques depending on the mobile phase and depending on the nature of the stationary phase. So if you are going to see this table here, the stationary phase, if the stationary phase is liquid and the mobile phase is again a liquid, the type of technique will be paper chromatography, and it will be thin layer chromatography and HPLC, and as well as adsorption column chromatography. And if the stationary phase is a solid, then it will be adsorption chromatography. And similarly, the other one is if the stationary phase is solid and with a ion exchange property and the mobile phase is a liquid, then this technique we are going to call it as ion exchange chromatography. And similarly, if the stationary phase is a solid matrix and the mobile phase is a liquid, then it will be a gel permeation chromatography or gel exclusion chromatography. And the other one is if the stationary phase is solid and the mobile phase is a gas, then this technique is known as gas solid chromatography. If the stationary phase is a liquid and mobile phase is a liquid, then it will be liquid liquid chromatography. If the stationary phase is liquid and the mobile phase is a gas, then we call it as a gas liquid chromatography. So all these various types of chromatography techniques are usable for separation of biomolecules and separation of your proteins, separation of your lipids, separation of your enzymes, and separation of your biological materials. So depending on the nature of the substance, we will be using the type of technique. So let us first begin with partition chromatography. As we said, the basic principle in this partition chromatography is distribution coefficient. That means the ability of a substance dividing in between the mobile phase and as well as the stationary phase. This ability of the substance is responsible for this technique, that is partition chromatography. In this partition chromatography, the first one will be paper chromatography. In this paper chromatography, the liquid present inside the paper will act as a stationary phase and the solvent is going to act as a mobile phase. Okay, that's why in this the partition is happening in between two liquid layers. The liquid layer present inside the paper, that is in the form of moisture, and the solvent which we are going to use. And the basic needs of this technique is, one is Whatman number 1 filter paper and the chromatographic chamber and the solvent system. So here in any type of chromatography, solvent system is having a peculiar and specific role. The reason being here, the solvent system is having the ability to dissolve the substance present in that mixture and travel and take it along with the solvent. So if you see this table here, you can see the solvent system which is volume by volume. So butanol, acetic acid in the ratios of 40, 10, 50 is useful for separation of amino acids. Whereas the other solvent system, that is butanol, pyridine and water in the ratio of 33, 33, 33 will be useful for the separation of amino acids. And the other one is for methanol, pyridine and water is also useful for separation of amino acids. But here the point to be remembered is, though we are using different solvent systems, we will be able to separate individual amino acids because we have 21 types of amino acids. So based on the nature of the amino acids which you want to separate, we will be using the different types of solvent systems. Similarly, the propane and what is called as petroleum ether is useful for plant pigments like your carotenoids and other plant pigments. Okay, and chloroform petroleum ether again useful for the plant pigments. So this table will give you an idea of the various solvent systems which we are going to use separate of amino acids and as well as plant pigments. So in this picture you can see here, so there are two types of chromatography. As we said, that is partition and absorption, and here coming to the partition, as we said, that is the first one is paper chromatography. Again in paper chromatography there are two variants you can see. So one is descending, the other one is ascending one. So if you see here in this system, what is happening, the solvent is moving here in this trough and solvent is moving towards down. So this system we call it as descending. So for example, if you see here in this paper piece, you can imagine, so if for example this is the paper, you can imagine this is a Whatman filter paper. So on this paper we are going to mark the solvent sample spots here, and these sample spots, when the solvent moves from here, this is called it as what is called descending chromatography. And same thing in the case of ascending chromatography, what will happen, the sample spots will be in the bottom side and solvent will move like this. This will be called as ascending chromatography. So once you run the solvent through this paper, that is Whatman number 1 filter paper, the paper is almost colorless and you are unable to distinguish where is the sample and where is the solvent. So this is what we call it as color undeveloped chromatogram. So to visualize the analyte, to visualize the substance which you have separated through this chromatography, you need to stain the paper. For this staining purpose, we are going to use different stains, and this is the, in this image you can see a spraying gun which we generally use in our laboratories to spray over the paper. The moment you spray with these stains on the paper, you are going to observe distinguishing spots. So after spraying, you are going to heat the paper in an oven for few minutes. By heating, what will happen, this undeveloped paper will get activated or developed. So previously when you have started the experiment, the paper is like this, colorless, clear, and the moment you spray it and put it in the oven and heat it for few minutes, you will be observing colored spots. In this picture you can see few colored spots. This is nothing but a developed chromatogram. See here, as I shown you the paper, bit of paper, the sample present in various spots is traveled along with the solvent system, and the moment when you apply this stain, it has been developed into a colorful picture. That's why we call it as a chromatogram and the technique as a chromatography, because we are going to see the result in the colored pattern. That's why we call it as a chromatography. And there are various stains Like you can use ninhydrin for amino acids, and as well as you can use bromine water for these lipids. Okay, depending on the nature of substance which you are going to analyze, you will be using different types of staining agents. So once you have the developed chromatogram, so how to distinguish which spot belongs to which particular amino acids, or which spot belongs to which particular analyte. So to do these estimations, there is a small formula, that is the value that is called as RF value, and this RF value is nothing but the resolution front. Here you can see, and this resolution front gives a ratio of the solute travel from the origin and the ratio of solvent traveled from the origin. So if you see this formula, RF value stands for the distance moved by the compound from the origin, distance moved by the solvent from the origin. So we are going to make a ratio of the movement. So these values will be varying from one amino acid to another amino acid, not only for amino acids but even for other molecules also the values will be varying. Once you have the standard values, you can check whether the unknown ones is having the similar RF value, then you can say this unknown sample is having similarly. So if you see in this case here, what we are trying to show is, here if you see in the first spot we are going to say unknown, that is standard one, and unknown one, and unknown two. So if for example in this standard sample we are going to put a standard amino acid like alanine, tryptophan, whichever it may be, you are identify, and this unknown one may be anyone, the test sample. The moment you run both the known and unknowns, what will happen, you will be able to see the colored patterns on the paper, and you can measure the RF values of both the spots and you can identify them. So the other variant of this paper chromatography is circular, which we call it as radial chromatography. The previous one is paper chromatography, but which is of ascending and descending in nature. Here this is another type that is called as circular, which we call it as radial paper chromatography. So the only difference is in this the paper is like a disc shape, and you are going to spot the sample here on this disc. And the solvent is going to connect in the middle of the paper, and the solvent will flow in all the directions, and the remaining staining and developing the paper will remain same. So another type of technique which we are going to discuss today is thin layer chromatography. So as we said, there are different types of stationary phases and different types of mobile phases. So in this, the stationary phase which we are going to use is a thin layer, and thin layer of silica powder, so many a times, and alumina and kieselguhr, and there are various substances which we can use as a stationary material. If you see, the principle is again distribution coefficient. The major step, and as well as you can say the crucial step in this TLC technique is preparation of the slurry, which is nothing but a semi-solid kind of substance. When we are going to mix the silica with the suitable solvent, we are going to spread the slurry on a glass plate like a thin film, and that thin film is being activated when you are going to keep it in the oven, and after activation you are going to spot the sample over the TLC plate. So if you observe this, how to spot the sample. So you will be taking 0.1% of the sample, okay, and we are going to apply the sample with the help of a capillary tube and as well as a micropipette over the TLC plate. So in this picture, you can see this is a TLC chamber, a glass chamber here, and in the middle you can see the TLC plate which is coated with silica. In the bottom, you can see traces of solvent, and the solvent is moving in this direction towards upwards. In case of paper, we have ascending and descending. So whereas in case of we have only one directional chromatography. So once the solvent reaches the maximum length of the plate, you are going to remove the plate from the solvent trough, and we are going to dry this TLC plate in hot air oven for 5 to 10 minutes. So once the plate dried, so now the chromatogram is activated. Again, similarly as we discussed in the case of paper chromatography, we are going to spray with various stains. By these stains, we are going to observe the different colored spots which will look like this. So here you can see the spots developed after staining. So actually here the stain which we are going to use is having a potential of absorbing UV light, that's why they are illuminating like this. Here in this case, in this plate, if you see, the spots are like yellow color and brown colored. So these are because of the iodine vapors. So depending on the type of detection technique you are using, the spots will appear differently. If you are using fluorescent dyes, they will be like illuminating. If you are using iodine vapors, the spots will be in dark brown color. Okay. If you are using ninhide ring, they will be purple color. If it is self-colored, like pigment is there, they will illuminate on their own. So like this, based on the detection technique, the spots will appear in different colors. And apart from that, so when you compare paper chromatography with that of the thin layer chromatography, so both are chromatography techniques, okay, but whereas the accuracy and the speed is the advantage of TLC over the paper chromatography. The other variant of chromatography is column chromatography. So in this column chromatography, if you see, the stationary phase is a solid and mobile phase is either liquid or it may be a gas. So in this case, we are going to use long columns which are made up of either glass or metal, and these columns are coated by the solid substances. And the advantage of this column chromatography, the paper and the TLC, is rapidity and as well as specificity. And again in this column chromatography, there are three types, majorly three types. One is gel filtration chromatography, another one is affinity chromatography, the other one is ion exchange chromatography. In this picture, you can see a scientist who is using a column chromatography, but this picture belongs to 1950s. The reason why I am showing and comparing is, so because in, you can say, history, in the history of chemistry, you can say, the scientists are using such a huge columns which are almost 5 to 6 feet of height. But nowadays, there are tremendous developments in this area which are getting, you are getting small sized columns which will do effective separation and effective elutions also. Here just we are trying to recollect whatever we have discussed in the case of chromatography. As we said, there are different types of mobile phases and different types of stationary phases. Based on these different types of mobile phases and different type of stationary phases, we are having different kinds of chromatographies. Similarly, in case of column chromatography also, we have gel permeation, affinity and ion exchange. So gel permeation means here where we are going to take a type of gel bead which will going to separate the mixture, and as well as the other one is affinity. So the biological affinity present between the antigen antibody, enzyme substrate, enzyme receptor and protein receptor. Based on this specificity also, we are going to separate these proteins. And the other one is ion exchange. So based on the ionic charges also, we are going to separate these molecules. So here, if you see this gel filtration chromatography, how it works, if you see this picture clearly indicates, for example, just imagine these beads are nothing but the gel with pores. On the top layer, we are going to put the mixture consisting of both smaller molecules and as well as the larger molecules. And when you are going to add the solvent over this column, what will happen? The smaller molecules will enter into the beads. If you see this, follow these blue lines. These blue lines indicates the smaller molecules entering into each bead and each pore, and they are coming out. And whereas the larger ones with red color, they are not entering into any bead, but they are moving in between the spaces present and they are reaching much faster. So here what we are trying to conclude is, so when you are adding a mixture of different sizes to this column, so smaller ones will be entering into the pores, whereas the larger ones, because of the space issues, they are going to come out of the beads and they will reach the eluent much faster. So here the larger molecules will be separated, whereas smaller ones will get trapped. So in this picture you can see a automated fraction collector. That means in the previous days manually we used to collect the fractions which are coming out of the columns, but nowadays because of the automation there is no need of collecting manually. The automation will do all the collection and processing and everything. So here the same thing you can see in a much stepwise manner. So the first column is showing with sample, mixture of sample, again here beads, and the second column you can see these mixture, like smaller ones and the bigger ones, they are moving in the interstitial spaces present in the column, and at the end so the molecules will be coming out. So the other one is affinity chromatography. So in this affinity chromatography we are going to based on the affinity present between the molecules like proteins and what is called as receptors and enzymes and substances, we are going to make the separations. So these are the few important chromatography techniques which are useful for the separation and as well as analysis and application purpose. However, we will be discussing in detail about all these techniques in the coming session, most probably in the separation techniques 3, where we will be discussing about electrophoresis and other applications of the techniques. Thank you, Munna.